Hello there, everybody. I was asked to help with this question, which is 3.3.3T, the T stands for technology, when you're doing this problem in your homework. All right, so often frequency distributions are reported using unequal class widths because the frequencies of some groups would otherwise be small or large, or too large. Consider the following data, which represent the daytime household temperature the thermostat is set to when someone is home for a random sample of 747 households. Determine the class midpoint, if necessary, for each class and approximate the mean and standard deviation temperature. Okay, so we're going to look at this problem, but I'm going to view an example. I'll do the example problem, which is the same setup, but just its own frequencies. All right, so you click the little blue, it looks like a grid icon to view the frequency distribution. And me personally, I want to open this in StatCrunch because I want to have StatCrunch do this for me. And there it is, opening it in StatCrunch. I'm actually going to move StatCrunch over a little bit because I'm going to be using Desmos in a minute. All right, I want to introduce the class midpoints because I'm going to need them. So I'm going to go here to the frequency column, and I'm going to let my mouse, my cursor kind of hover, and that little down arrow appears. That means there's a menu. So I'm going to click on the little down arrow. I'm going to click Insert One to the left. And I'm going to insert a column that I'm going to call the midpoints. Now, unfortunately, this particular one is going to be tricky to do because, as it says in the setup, every single one of them is different. So I'm actually going to use Desmos to help myself here. And we have to use the formula for finding midpoints. We won't be able to use the whole little trick with the class width that we normally do. So the first thing you have to do is put in a parentheses, and then you're going to say 61 plus 65, close parentheses, divided by 2. So the first class midpoint is actually 63, like that, right? Because that's the way that we find midpoints. It's the consecutive lower class limits added up and divided by 2. So 61 and 65, right, not 64, 65, add them up and divide by 2. Because really this is 64.99999. You can see that when you look over here at the upper limit. That's one of the reasons you don't take that one. All right, now you have to do it again, 65 and 68. If you're in Desmos, you can actually just type over the numbers. So I want 65 plus 68. Okay, that would be 66.5. And then 68 and 70. So I could make it 68 plus 70 up here. And that makes 69 right here. And this is a little strange, but we're going to do it. 70 plus 71, because this is really 70 to 70.999, right? So you're trying to fit the halfway spot between those values, and that would be 70.5. Then 71 plus 73 divided by 2 makes 72. Then 73 plus 77, add them up and divide by 2, makes 75. And now the last one's a little strange, but you can kind of see down here. So the lower limit and the upper limit are written out here, and you can see this upper limit is 80.99. You don't have the next class, but the next class would have started at 81, right? Even though we don't have it, we know that must have been the case because this is ending at 80.99 for the upper limit. So I would take 77 and 81, add those two up, and divide by 2. Because we don't have a class width to rely on here. So we have to use our savvy and know how this would have been. All right, so now I have midpoints and frequency. This is great. So now I can find the mean and standard deviation, which it's going to ask for. Oh, let me go back to the problem real quick. So if I say I'm done with that, and then if I just say continue, you can see that it uses the same values I've got for my data set. All right, so then they want the mean and the standard deviation, the sample standard deviation. And we're not going to find any of that by hand, even though it's showing us the formulas. We're just going to make StatCrunch do it. So you go to Stat, Summary Stat, Grouped Binned. Your bins are your midpoints. So there they are, they're the midpoints. And your counts are your frequency, whatever those mean, because that's what frequency is. Frequency is count. It's another way to say it. And then we say we want the mean and the standard deviation. So I'm holding my control button. So I click on the mean, and then I hold my control button down. I'm just pressing it this whole time, and I click on standard deviation. On an Apple computer, that would be the command button. If you're on a Mac, it's command, but if you're on a PC, which I am, then it's control. And then you say compute, and there you have it. Those are the two values. 70.7 is the mean, and 3.33, roughly, is the standard deviation. Let's see if it matches. Oh, sure enough, it does. 3.3, 70.7. My answers are correct. All right, I hope that helps.